Hey guys, today we have another ranking episode, players 30 to 25 of our top 100 NBA ranking list. Now, we are edging closer and closer to the elite of the NBA. We have outstanding talents obviously here to hit off today, and like usual, some very questionable calls from me relative to consensus opinion for a lot of these guys that I do have, especially in this 5 range today. Now, because we are going through these 5 at a time from now on, we'll scope in and focus more heavily on each player and why I do believe in their talents to be positioned where they are. And with that, Bam Adebayo starts us off here at number 30. One of the best defenders in basketball, first off. I mean, elite frame, mobility package, and extreme athleticism at the center spot. That does make him this super juiced anchor who can deliver in literally any coverage that you choose. Bam last year was 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on 52% effective field goal percentage, anchoring the Miami Heat to 37 wins and a playoff berth through the play-in tournament. So basically, from what we saw last season, nothing really spectacular as far as the individual floor raising goes, but in terms of the actual skill set and impact on the game, not many can actually match what Bam Adebayo can do at the center position. Offensively, let's start off here. Relatively gifted jump shooting big man Bam Adebayo, who has enough juice as a close range and mid-range shot maker to leverage enough of a threat when acting as that continuous dribble handoff hub on the perimeter. And that's really where the gifts start for Adebayo. He weaponizes the coordination, the balance, the foot speed to create these advantages as that handoff fulcrum. And with that speed and composure comes with the high-level rollman stuff where we've actually seen Bam flourish in short space as a decision maker off the pocket pass for literally his entire All-Star career. In terms of like the 4 and 3 passing, that we all know that's such a requisite trait for any of these passing hubs to have down pat, and Bam is absolutely no exception. But with this, he also brings substantially more jump shooting and spacing juice than most guys with the skill potential piece of the actual ball handling itself. Now, whether or not we consider this jump shooting as efficient basketball, that's obviously a viable knock on Bam's actual offensive playstyle, but overall, the overarching talent of what Bam brings as that offensive fulcrum, it's very, very impressive. So although the efficient aspect isn't super convincing at this point, what Bam brings with the diversity of his offensive game is the real package of value. Like with Adebayo, I mean, you're getting some really decent post-up reps. You're getting vertical value directly at the rim. You're getting transition foot speed. You're getting occasional isolation, attacking those slow-footed big matchups that he can get frequently at the center position. And then also, when you flip defensively, there's this absolute versatile monster that you're getting, with much of it attributed to his overpowered athletic and physical makeup for the center position. And when it comes to being able to thrive under any scheme, I mean, Bam just presents a limitless defensive presence. And yes, he isn't as effective in those low drop schemes compared to many guys. And yes, the rim deterrence hasn't been incredible, via metrics over the past year especially. And obviously the rebounding can sometimes be a drawback. But overall, Bam is a stout defensive anchor and a coach's dream. And to be honest, there aren't many better guys in the league that can fulfill his ever-changing defensive role. And he's the best switcher in basketball. You talk about extreme lateral movement, you talk about the elite balance, the elite footwork stability, the ability to cover driving angles and recovering for shot contests on the perimeter as well. And then you also just have the confidence that plays into that as well. I mean, Bam just plays with so much polished defensive aggression, just understanding how to bait and hunt uncomfortable looks, whilst also pressuring your actual handle itself, just serving as an actual high-level wing defensive option when he is actually out in the perimeter. And this value from Bam is just so amplified around other strong defensive talents, where just Bam's freedom to switch, contain, rotate, recover, they're all so accentuated around other stable guys. And really the only reason I have him here at 30 and not higher is really just due to the lack of offensive load that he can carry. On the roll, yes, he is an athletic guy, but the shot touch isn't super polished and never really has been. There aren't really any elite over-the-top advantages either off the catch in the post, and then also adding to that, there's not really any sort of like diverse finishing angles that he can really just get to consistently. And with the intermediate shot making as well, just being a relatively poor piece in terms of aggregate team efficiency focus, I just think Bam doesn't really present as a super high value big in the NBA, and there are drawbacks through that scope as well. I mean, however, when we are talking about versatility of impact, I mean, with Bam, you are getting this all-star level guy, perennial all-star level impact, really across the entire board of matchups as well. And though the ceiling of Adebayo doesn't really stand out, I mean, to me, his consistent floor makes him a certified top 30 guy in this league. Now, next up, we have number 29, a star guard who now will sit out for quite some time and probably won't return back to his all-star form purely due to age, and that is Damian Lillard. Dame, for me, still an offensive beast. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists on 55% effective field goal percentage. Still extremely strong production, and someone who has lost some athletic touch when creating perimeter separation, but still one of the finest and most talented shot makers and pick and roll scorers in basketball. Last year, Dame was getting an elite 1.07 points per possession out of pick and roll. That ranked third best out of all high volume creators last year, only behind Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And with his range and the offensive ceiling backed by that shot-making base, Lillard just still poses such a major threat when given a perimeter advantage out of pick and roll. Out of ball screens, Lillard still stands as one of the premier range extenders. Talk about the strength of his lower base that allows him to get this constant lift on his jumpers. Talk about the upper body strength allowing for those strong and resistant releases still today. And though far from his prime, Dame still presents huge value as that ball handler with a low center of gravity. Not exceptional as a passer by natural talent, but definitely strong at making the simple reads out of pick and roll and reacting to typical defensive coverages. And with his scoring talent, I mean, Lillard still just asserts himself as a very credible advantage extender as well, with still more value than what most people would believe in. And with the shooting, I mean, like I just quickly stepped on before, I mean, it comes in every single facet. Still great off movement, coming off dribble handoffs and getting free on those off ball screens as well every now and then. And the shooting touch just makes him one of the most portable guards in basketball still. Last year, he shot 41.5% on volume catch and shoot threes. And when you pair that with his aggregate pick and roll efficiency, you're getting this immensely hard combination to find in the league. And for that reason, and this may be the last time purely due to physical deterioration, but I still believe in Damian Lillard as a top 30 guy because of that overall ceiling. And also, just you talk about the compatibility with other talents, not just being reliant on this completely angled, pick and roll style of offense and having the talent to give real impact in separate actions. And also just talk about the playoff resilience as well that he has proven over his healthy years in the league. I'm just going to ignore last postseason as well when we are talking about playoff resilience. I think it's quite unfair considering what Dame was going through with the inconsistency on the court stemming from that deep vein thrombosis in his right leg last season. And so those 3 games prior to the Achilles injuries for me aren't really just a proper representation of playoff Damian Lillard. But flipping to the season prior to that, I don't really care if it was only a 4-game sample, but in that first initial Pacers first round series in Giannis's absence, Dame was absolutely exceptional in terms of just the load carrying. In that 2024 Pacers playoff series, I mean, just a very disjointed series. I mean, he only played 4 out of the 6 games. But Dame gave you 31 points and 5 assists on 54% effective field goal percentage. And though this level probably wasn't going to be in effect, even if he was healthy in these playoffs, just that offensive aggressiveness, though, is for me, just to be able to provide enough individual value for a team and still offer that occasional superstar level ceiling. That's enough for me to have him here. Yes, he doesn't affect team offense to the level of other stars, but the luxury of having your lead guard in a second star role, able to give you 30 plus. And last year, he gave you 30 plus in over 20% of your games, still at age 35. That's absolutely remarkable, in my opinion. The drawbacks, obviously, Dame isn't as efficient as the superstar offensive-oriented guards that I do have ranked above him. He just has regressed as that separation creator, which has limited the level of comfort he has on those off-the-dribble releases. But we're talking about a small guard who also can be mightily limited against long and physical athletes. especially considering his scoring base comes so strongly off the dribble. Defensively as well, Dame might be one of the worst in basketball. It's really hard to survive the level of brutal mismatch hunting that comes with Damian Lillard. And now with the injuries and the athletic decline, he may be one of the worst defensive starters in basketball. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it here. He does have a strong body, but he is limited when it comes to denying dribble penetration, just with the speed and lateral piece of it, even against role player talents today. He's not particularly fast anymore, and he's never really had good technique navigating ball screens and alleviating his bigs with any sort of recovery impact. He's relatively attentive, but severely, what does limit him is just the physical archetype and the age at this point. But in saying those little minor drawbacks for me, I just think Dame ranks here because of the offense. Elite off the dribble scorer and amazing half court initiator still to this day, because of that extreme skill set that he does possess. And overall, Dame is still a superstar on occasional nights, and that is enough for me to have Damian Lillard still receive his respect probably one more time on the top 30 of this ranking. Now, number 28, I have another completely offensive-oriented guard who last year posed as the best offensive player for a 64-win team, and that is Darius Garland. Simply, Darius ranks here due to the elite offensive impact that he has as a top 10 off-the-dribble shooter and top 10 passer in this league. Obviously, the drawbacks are the playoff production and the effectiveness resume that he brings to the game, but also just the destructive defensive stability, which does mitigate much of what he does bring to the game, very similar to Damian Lillard. But offensively alone, Darius Garland is one of the most polished shot creators in basketball. Last year, 1.02 points per possession in pick and roll on over 8 possessions a game. And now to guys to run at least 500 pick and rolls, DG tied first in total effective field goal percentage at an astounding 55.3%, matching the efficiency mark of SGA as a two-man scoring talent. And then also, flip to transition play. DG gives you a very respectable 1.17 points per possession. Decent mark for a small, not as vertical guard either. Out of handoff actions, 1.15 points per possession. That's ranked in the 84th percentile good. And he does this being a 42% three-point scorer off the catch with a 39% pull-up mark from three. So basically, skill set-wise, you're just getting this absolutely elite top 3 floater polish in the league as well. Just absolutely destructive in that short to mid section as well in the paint non-restricted section, shooting 53% on those looks on 3.5 attempts a game. The thing is, though, these elite marks don't just come from the elite touch, but it also just eventuates because of that elite speed weaponization that he does bring to the game. Darius is absolutely dominant at dicing and carving up driving lanes with his capitalization on slight gaps. Capitalizing on those defenders' lapses in attentiveness, capitalizing on the gravity that his role partners do provide him in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. But also with Garland, this efficient downhill mastery is not just with the shot touch and the cognitive sharpness, but also comes just with that foot speed. And just really, that's what makes him basically unguardable in regular season formats, especially as he does take advantage of defenses with lower defensive intensity, which is typically what you do get in the full 82. Also offensively, we're talking about one of the best passers in basketball. Darius Garland just makes efficient decisions in tight and cramped spaces as well. He's someone who's able to thrive in flooded traffic and make reads through cracks and crevices on those pocket reads. He's able to make those overarching lob reads and those quiet dump-offs. And just the talent to not just flourish making the simple advantage creation reads, but to also make those more advanced and high reward passes at an extremely secure level with that fast-hitting reaction mind that he does bring to the game. It just makes you one of the elite players in basketball on the offensive side of the ball. And I want this to be no knock on his backcourt partner, but Darius Garland's minutes without Donovan Mitchell last season were just a complete representation of the elite regular season offensive initiation that he can bring at the highest level. In these minutes with Darius Garland at the helm, he had the Cavs with a plus 9.1 differential per 100 possessions, and the Cavs were scoring 125 points per 100 possessions. That was ranked in the 97th percentile amongst all volume lineups in the NBA. Just outstanding and dependable creation methods that do make him literally one of the best offensive players in basketball from last season especially. And like mentioned before, the defensive stability though, that is the major issue with Garland's overall impact. He does get brutally mismatch hunted in every single matchup that he is in, and he does work relatively hard, and I do want to mention that. Talk about the ball screen work, you talk about the zone switching, the speedy rotations, they actually make him sometimes decently effective when he is aggressive, but his actual size, stature, and the lack of strength, that does just make him such an easy target for bigger forwards and scoring wings. And his lack of drive deterrence as well, and the comfortability that he gives his matchups, it's just a huge factor in Darius Garland's limitations and his overall value. And it doesn't necessarily need to be scoring that comes from the mismatch attacking, but it's more about the mass volume of advantages that he concedes that has his team in a ton of rotation where role guys can assert their footprint offensively against him just through the initial step, beating and bullying him off the dribble initially. But I mean, even with that, for me, I have Darius Garland here, especially after just the exceptional season that he just had for Cleveland, just a career year by team and impact standards. 21 points and 7 assists on 56% effective field goal percentage for a 6'1 guard. That is exceptional to me. Exceptional output for a top-tier contender as well. And the overall impact that he brings as Cleveland's third best player and their best regular season offensive engine does assure of Garland's rank here as one of the best players in the NBA. Now, maybe considered more of a controversial opinion, but here at 27, I have a super high ceiling forward with a talented future, but someone who, despite putting up extreme production numbers, to me, he just doesn't provide that elite impact that his frame and numbers do convey, and that is Paolo Banchero from the Orlando Magic. The knock on Paolo is the playstyle really, which is both a result of a bad situation, but just also just poor tendencies. Last season, Paolo ranked in the 96th percentile amongst bigs to take long mid-range looks. And to me, what I take from that is I think it's a very alarming number for your jacked 6'10" bolstering forward, someone who is a physical anomaly to be doing that sort of thing year in and year out. Last year, Paolo took about as many above the break threes as he did within the restricted area at the rim. And really for me, the threes aren't the issue, but it's just the low efficiency looks which should be more relied upon just in crunch time situations for possession-based value. But it's not like I'd be fine if he was really high level at these types of looks, but he's not even average at them by efficiency standards. I mean, Banchero last year, in that short to mid-range section, so basically in that paint non-restricted area, he was only actually making 41% of those, and that did rank in the 43rd percentile amongst just bigs in general. Obviously, Orlando is a pretty shocking spacing environment overall. They're literally the worst in the league by a mile in terms of the shooting pace. But to me, Paolo just has that gifted of a frame where drawing contact at the rim against those collapse-heavy defenses should be the main goal, more so than it has been for Paolo in his short career. But for me, the bright spots, I mean, Banchero is a playoff-built machine. That's actually ultimately why I do have him here. A very diverse scoring bag for his size, where with some more development, he should be able to provide sufficient looks from every section on the court. And in just a few years' time especially, I mean, we'll be able to see him carve out such a diverse and unstoppable scoring bag. In the postseason, last year, 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists on a pretty poor 48% effective field goal percentage. And so basically you get a high volume scoring force of aggression. But Paolo took the most looks per game last playoffs. I mean, he took nearly 25 a game in that short first round versus Boston. The thing is though, for me personally, I'd rather have an aggressive lead offensive guy than a passive and anxious offensive engine that does limit his intensity due to the loss of self-belief and apprehension in multiple different matchups. But Paolo, for me, through his first 2 playoff series in his career, he has established who he thinks he is and what he thinks that future ceiling with his archetype will be. And that is extremely encouraging. I mean, last year in the regular season, you're still getting 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists overall. And though we can question the efficiency, we can question the frequent over-aggression and sometimes the defensive consistency and the impact metrics as well. But Paolo can still will his team's scoring volume and provide a level of physical imposition that is extremely hard to mitigate for any opponent. And overall, I just believe in the resilience of Paolo Banchero's playoff game, and that is why I do have him here at number 27. Now moving on to our last rank of the day, at number 26, this will probably get a lot of people. I've got Chet Holmgren, who comes in here to round out our last spot of the day. And before you react, this ranking does come with a very strong basis from me. First off, when we are talking about the load that guys can carry for a team, we're talking about literally the best defender for the best defensive team in basketball and maybe the greatest defense of the modern era. We're talking about the most outstanding defender of the playoffs who was able to completely mitigate and staunch the best offense in basketball for multiple stretches in that final series, being able to swarm and utterly compete with Darius Garland on the perimeter, which was such a luxury for OKC to fully stall out everything that Hallie was able to do, creating simple advantages out of pick and roll against continuous drop coverages. Really with Holmgren, just for OKC as well, just having someone who can shut the tap off like that, and that being your defensive anchor as well, it's just so special. And then when you also look at the numbers, we're talking about the single best rim protector in basketball by actual efficiency of contests at the rim. Last year, for guys to have defended at least 100 shots at the rim, that is a lot of guys. Chet ranked first in diminishing differential percentage at an astronomical 18.1%. Almost 3 percentage points better than Kristaps Porzingis, who is ranked at number 2 of that list. And to put that in context, we haven't seen someone that damaging as a rim contester since Giannis of 2020 by that specific metric. Chet also led the league in general defended field goal percentage for guys to have defended at least 100 shots as well. A low mark that he still smashes, holding guys to 44% on all looks. Obviously, we can't take these at purely face value, but these metrics held first by a mile as well when you do translate that to the postseason, and it wasn't close in any perspective. This is one of the most picture-perfect vertical contesters, paint rotators, help side wipers, and elite positioning-based anchors of the modern era. And there haven't been many guys to replicate the defensive season that he just put together, albeit only playing 32 regular season games. And it's because of just how destructive of that postseason was as well. He just a show of mastered versatility for someone of his staggering size and length. And that is why I do have him so high. And so that's why I am really just so high on Chet. You just talk about the portable defensive value as well, where he can actually pose as the league's most efficient defender at either front court position. And just with that schematic versatility as well, that allows him to thrive in every scene with not just the unfair physical and mobility advantages, but also the elite cognitive processing that does make him so unfair. We're talking about timely step-ups. We're talking about timely rotations, timely balance, timely footwork, timely elevation. Just everything that he has done defensively over his short 2-year career in the NBA has been about the right timing. Offensively as well, he's here for a reason. He's a high-level spacing option in general at the center or power forward position. Chet last year was 38% on threes on nearly 4 attempts a game, and though the stats aren't eye-popping, the impact of his offensive versatility just continues to assert this elite portability that comes with Chet's game, and why I regard his value so highly amongst the league. Last year, 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 55% effective field goal percentage in the regular season. And just Holmgren, he just gives OKC one of the most overpowered vertical spaces in basketball. You're talking about the athletic launch. You're talking about the 7'6" wingspan reach, the high-level foot speed, the agility coming off the roll through tight lanes and dodging bodies in cramped spaces for clean rise-ups. And when you pair this with the touch, the over-the-top advantages, the length to draw contact on those dump-off situations, and you're just having such a huge dimension to his game. You add in the pick and pop as well, and when Chet's aggression translates onto those pump-fake drives as well, Holmgren just offers so much potential in this league, and I just see such a top 10 ceiling in what he already brings, only with 2 years into the league already. Obviously, with Chet, he does have significant drawbacks, because I am glazing him a fair bit here, but he does have a lot of limitations to his value at this point in time. Chet still struggles to impose any physical will, and he does frequently get deterred when trying to create downhill impact with his speed against sturdier bigs. And we saw that in the matchup against Miles Turner in the finals. And simply, this happens because he just isn't that explosive in the NBA sense, and he doesn't have much size to throw at wings and forwards, especially when he is pitched at the 4 next to Isaiah Hartenstein. Obviously, the passing as well, it is strong for a guy of his age and position. But overall, in that postseason, we did see multiple moments, especially in that final series, where Holmgren struggles to make connective reads and frequently he doesn't understand when to settle and be satisfied just being an advantage creator, passing out of those initial drives. And when the whistle isn't as open as it sometimes is in the regular season, Holmgren can struggle converting with the lack of strength to overcome the physical deterrence of bigger centers in the league. The shooting as well, yes, the percentages are nice and the base shot making is very strong for his size, position, and age, but the mechanics are slow. He has a hitched release still, which does limit the speed of his release, and that allows for closeouts to have a much stronger effect on his rhythm and release. But for me, I know he has such a strong list of flaws as a basketball player. Many of these, though, are just still being panned out in due time with the natural progression that will take place. And if all goes well, we should be able to see Chet Holmgren back at that level that he was at playing prior to the hip injury, where he was giving you 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks on 58% effective field goal percentage in the first 9 games of last season. And for the fact that Chet just won the title as the best defender of the playoffs as well, I just believe you have to credit him as having one of the better campaigns of last season despite the injury. And with the destructive defensive season and the absolute immense value and talent that he still poses, I do have Chet Holmgren comfortably here at number 26. And with that, with Chet Holmgren rounding out at number 26, we do arrive at the top 25 guys of our list. And we'll start hitting that sometime in the next few days as we do sit just within 2 months of the next season starting. Just such a fast schedule, to be honest, but really that is when the exciting fun does begin. I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys did enjoy that, and I hope you guys do have a good rest of the week.